Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. The King's Assassin, Chapter 15. Okay, for those of you who have not yet seen the first few videos for The King's Assassin, I suggest you go view those now, as this is a continuation of that story. I wrung a towel out and wiped Aldrich's damp forehead, trying my best not to wake him, even though I doubted he could wake if he wanted. His breath was shallow and labored with each sharp intake. Pressing my ear to his chest, I listened. Terrible wheezing was all I heard back. I worried for my king. His muscles spasmed every few moments as he fought the poison that coursed through his veins. At the same time, I fought back tears. I knew better than to fall for him. I should not care so much. I threw myself over his body, sobbing. I couldn't bear to see him in such agony. The turmoil that attacked my soul was nearly unbearable. The guild law was clear. I could not love another, especially my king. I didn't care. I clutched his nightshirt in one hand and the damp towel in the other while falling asleep, waiting for him to wake from his painful slumber. I awoke sometime later to hands playing in the mess of curls that no longer resembled any sort of fashionable or proper updo a lady should have atop her head. Blinking to consciousness, I looked up to the somewhat smiling face of my king. Albeit he was still paler than I preferred, he was alive. Sighing softly, I smiled up at him and closed my eyes as he continued to twist curls around his fingers. You stayed with me. A smile spread across my face. My heart leapt with joy. Of course, Your Majesty. Why? His voice held a sense of seriousness that I had never heard from him before. I peeked up from a heavily hooded eyes. I was unsure if you would survive the night. I trusted no one to care for you. I had to be sure you would be okay, so I stayed at your side. He nodded and laid back on the goose-down pillows. Propping myself up on an elbow, I watched him. The sweat that beaded his brow the previous night was gone. The spasm that gripped his body was gone. He seemed to be returning to normal. What's wrong? He asked. I shook my head. Nothing, just happy you're okay. Of course I'm okay. I'm the king. Do you know how close you came to dying? I drank too much wine last night and passed out. No, someone sent an assassin after you. I killed her and have been here making sure you didn't die, Aldrich. He furrowed his brow and pursed his lips together. I did fall asleep awful fast. You were shot with a poisoned dart with some sort of sleeping potion on its tip.
Someone attacked me in my own castle?
I nodded my head. It was brazen of someone to hire an assassin to attack Aldrich in his castle. The assassin didn't know about me, though. This meant I could cut a few people out as suspects. It's nobody in your privy chamber or inner guards.
And you know this?
The assassin knew nothing of me.
Interesting.
Who would be able to get an assassin into the castle without much notice? I asked. He shook his head, his brow drawing together.
I'm unsure. Royals could. Domestic staff.
I sat up, leaning over Aldridge, and gazed into his pale eyes. I missed his brightness. I hated how sick he was. I missed the iciness that normally stared back at me. I reached towards him, cupping each side of his face in my warm hands. His cheeks still felt clammy in my grasp. He leaned into my touch, the corners of his mouth turning up. I closed my eyes and gently brushed my lips against his. My heart thumped against my chest. It was such an exhilarating feeling.
What are you doing?
He asked. Something I shouldn't, I murmured.
I like it.
He wrapped his arms around me and pulled me close. I tried to protest, but it was useless. He covered my mouth with his and continued the kiss. The ever-increasing passionate kiss. I couldn't complain. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Placing my hands on his chest, I pressed back, wanting more of him. If we're caught, I'll be taken away and killed.
Then I guess we'll have to make sure never to be caught, Aldrich said softly.
What about marriage for you? A son?
We'll figure that out.
This is not something to take lightly.
I understand that.
He kissed the tip of my nose and held my face in his hands, smiling at me gently.
We will figure everything out.
I feel as though I'm robbing you of a normal life. I cannot ride beside you during progress. I cannot host dignitaries or holidays. I have to remain hidden in the background with other courtiers.
You can and will do whatever I wish. If I want, you will ride along my side during progresses if you will.
But Aldrich, people will talk.
Let them talk. What harm will it do? You cannot marry. You must remain in court, he said.
Yes?
I have no interest in marrying anyone except for you.
It will be obvious you favor me. If word travels back to the guild,
we can easily explain everything away. Have no worries, my love.
I will always have worries. There is so much at stake. An urgent knock at the door disturbed us from the very intimate embrace we were in.
Majesty? Wait, Aldrich bellowed. Why does everyone intrude at the wrong time?
Sir, the lady's mother is coming down the hall. My face felt as though all the colors drained out of it. I jumped up and off the bed. What do I do? She can't find me here, and most assuredly not in your night clothing.
Come this way. Aldrich motioned for me to follow. This tunnel will take you to the lower courtyard. It's directly behind your chambers. If you hurry, no one will see you.
I nodded my head and began to enter the tunnel.
Catherine.
Aldrich grabbed my arm, handing me one of his robes.
In case anyone is there.
Thank you. He kissed my cheek and closed the bookcase behind me. I waited a few moments and listened as he walked across the room. Another knock on his door and his muffled reply. Where is my daughter?
I do not know, lady.
She was not in her chambers this morning.
Perhaps you should check again. Maybe she went for a stroll in the courtyard, Aldrich replied.
I turned and ran down the narrow hallway. My bare feet echoed off the stone walls. At a dead end, I pushed with all my might against the wall.
until there was a big enough space for me to slip out. Glancing up and down the open space, I darted out into my own chambers. My heart thumped against my chest. I hoped my mother was still arguing with Aldrich about my early morning stroll. "Angeline!" I shouted, slamming the door behind me. "Madam? Hurry, nightclothes and a wash basin, quickly!" The girl scurried about to get what I asked for, and I threw off the king's night clothing, tucking it safely in my trunk. She presented me with the wash basin. I quickly scrubbed and washed the mess of curls that had long been ruined. "I need you to tie up these curls, please," I said, slipping my own sleeping gown on. "I don't understand. Where have you been, madam? Your mother appeared. I know. That's why I need you to tie up my curls, and quickly. She's on her way back. Don't ask questions." "Of course, madam." Angeline worked her magic and took the scraps of fabric to my hair, expertly twisting my hair into perfect curls. As I finished and I laid back on my pillows, taking a cup of tea, my mother burst through the door. "Mother! Catherine, where have you been?" "Here, mother. What is troubling you?" I asked innocently. "You were not here long ago. I was here not long ago. You were not here." "I went for a stroll when I woke. It seemed like a lovely morning. I caught a chill and now I'm taking tea. Would you care for some?" "No! What happened with the king yesterday?" she asked. "Absolutely nothing. Why?" "He said he was taking you to visit the Duke de la Mare without me." "Oh, that, yes. Quite odd. I didn't get the opportunity to speak with him. Did you?" "No." I did something she hated most of all. I shrugged my shoulders. I did her second least favorite thing next. Grabbed a book on the stand near my bed. I opened it to a random page, sipping my tea, and willing the wretched woman in front of me away with my mind. It didn't work. She stood there tapping her satin-covered toes at me. "Is there anything else, Mother?" "Do you plan on spending all day in bed?" "A bit longer, yes. I would like to read a little bit more of my book. It's quite a fascinating book." She huffed and turned on her heels and stormed from the room. I sighed heavily and tossed the book back. "Madam, if I may ask, what is going on?" "It's a long story, Angeline. Help me get dressed, would you?" I climbed out of bed, anxious to get back to Aldrich.